Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for this conversation that I am so excited about. My name is April Carter, and I serve as the Chief Program Officer with Tennessee Nonprofit Network here in Memphis, Tennessee. I am joined by my colleague, Andrea Hill, and also by Dr. Rashid Mosley, and they both will have an opportunity to introduce themselves in just a moment. But today, our conversation is centered around an independent sector and the summit that's coming up in October that you need to be at your monitor right now. Type in the address. We'll provide the information in just a second and prepare to register. We're talking about the National Summit that's coming up in October, and we're going to go through all of the reasons why you need to be in the room. But first, I'll pass it over to Andrea to introduce herself, and we'll get this conversation started.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Excited to be here with Dr. Rob. I hope I can call him that. I don't know if y'all can call him that. When you meet him, we'll have that conversation. But I am Andrea Hill. I am the Chief Development and Partnership Officer for Tennessee Nonprofit Network here in our great state of Tennessee. And I am excited to be here and all of you getting a chance to hear from Dr. Rob about the conference. It's going to be a wonderful summit. And so we're going to give you a little teaser before you get there.
Thank you so much, Andrea. So the summit, the Independent Sector National Summit, Building Collective Power for Nonprofits and Philanthropy is happening October the 27th through October the 29th in Atlanta, Georgia. Now, all of this wonderful programming and work is led by Dr. Rashid Mosley, and he serves as the Vice President of Programming, Innovation, and Impact at Independent Sector. He has been working for several months with a wonderful team to curate all of the wonderful sessions and speakers that we will experience in October. But without further ado, I would like to bring in Dr. Ra, as he's affectionately known as, to kind of talk us through all of the summit sessions and why we are here. Thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Ra.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Carter. Thank you, Andrew Hill. And yes, everyone calls me Dr. Rod. I'm Dr. Rashid Mosley, and very excited to talk to Tennessee about our independent sector. Independent sector is a membership organization of which the Tennessee Nonprofit Network is a member. And so this is your summit. Our role at independent sector is to make sure that we curate and co-create the information and the resources and tools that are needed by this sector. As Dr. Carter mentioned, this year the theme is building the collective power between nonprofits and philanthropy. And this year your summit will be held in Atlanta, Georgia, October 27th and 29th.
All right, fantastic. So you said something very interesting. You are a membership-based organization and you do support professional development, networking, and all of that, but you also said co-create. So typically when we think about professional development and membership organizations, we think about programming that is already prepared that you just kind of come into and experience and have your takeaways. How was that different with the independent sector and this conference and the membership base for independent sector?
Sure. At independent sector, we take what most of y'all are familiar with is the ABCD model, asset-based community development. And so in seeing that we have an asset framework, we believe that the knowledge and experience also exists outside of the office. And so what we do is work with nonprofits and philanthropy on what you have already created. And I like to say what we need to sort of put gas on and help
Yes.
blow up and share with everyone else. And so our focus is to work with our members to understand what is it that you say you need. It's not for us to sit in the office and just have these wonderful ideas and conversations and say, this is what we want to present. So through the co-create process, we work with our members to identify the topics, identify even the questions around those particular topics, and identify individuals and organizations that are already doing this work in the community. And our role at independent sector is to help not only curate that information, help make sure that we provide an avenue to share it with others. And then if we see there are some gaps that exist, then we work with our members to help fill in those gaps. So we also just don't create projects and programs because no one else is doing it. We need to make sure that is needed and that our members will actually use it and that you see yourselves in it as we're developing it.
I appreciate that. Thank you for giving us that. So when we're looking at some of the topics that you have co-created with members like TNN or the folks in Tennessee, it's centered around thriving workplaces or workforces, being financially robust with your organization, trusted voices, active advocates, transformative philanthropy, and AI, which everybody's going to want to know about, and but also strategic volunteer engagement. So with that being said, just what type of workshops can we really be looking for when you have that such a robust list of offerings at the conference?
Sure. So let me back up and tell how those became issues. So
Yes.
what we do, we focus on what we consider the conditions that are needed to create a healthy charitable sector. An independent sector, we don't focus on nonprofits or philanthropy or corporate social responsibility programs. Our role is the whole. So our role is to make sure we're the trade association for the entire charitable sector. And we work at the organizational level. And when we think about the conditions that are needed for a healthy charitable sector, as you mentioned, is that organizations need to, one, make sure they're financially robust. So in particular, if you're working in a nonprofit or philanthropy and you're thinking about the funding mix that you have or the grants that you provide, our workshops are not how to write a better grant. It's how do you think about a financial mix moving forward, in particular in this economic turn. Organizations are dealing with defunding, refunding, reorganizations around funded opportunities. And so some of the workshops you will see is how do we think about what a new mix look like? And also how do we not try to grant our way out of this? Also, what we heard is around the workforce. We work at the organizational level, as I mentioned, and so we're focused on making sure the sector has what it needs. And so that's two parts. Not only is it around upskilling and reskilling to make sure that you have the employees you need to achieve your mission, but also to make sure that they don't fall into what we call this sort of Alice mode, meaning that they're asset limited, income constrained, but they're employed. And so basically what that means is that people are working in the nonprofit sector and about 20% of them are right above the poverty guideline, but they can't afford to live a thriving life. And so we want to make sure that just because people are working in the nonprofit and the philanthropic sector, we understand they're doing this because it's the goodwill and they want to help the community. They also should be able to live a thriving life. And so workshops are going to be centered around how organizations can create a thriving workforce. Also, we want to make sure that the voices that you have in your community is trusted and that you know how to actively advocate on your behalf. And so what that means is that we're going to work with organizations around board development, around how they communicate the work that they're doing in the community, and because we represent all 1.9 organizations in the charitable sector, we're not issue specific. What we do is focus on making sure your organization have what you need and that you know the difference between lobby and advocating. We know that about 30% of organizations that could advocate, only about 30% advocate. And so we're working on how do we help nonprofits and philanthropy and use the advocacy model. So those are some of the workshops that you will see. This is not a what I call a death by PowerPoint, where someone is just standing at the front presenting to you all the great and wonderful things that they've done. We've asked our presenters to focus on what individuals need, what they're going to learn, and then also we want to work with organizations on in the future, can we contact you to find out was that information useful? So less about what did you learn at 9 o'clock and what did you remember at 10. We want to know 6 months from now, is it useful? So we're going to be calling, we're going to have some virtual roundtables and even some in-person roundtables to get a better understanding that what we heard from you all is needed and that you were actually able to use it. So April, Andrew, those are some of the workshops and the way we have it structured.
Dr. Raw, I absolutely adore that approach. And I
Okay.
also adore the approach of working with state associations, especially Southern state associations, to galvanize nonprofit organizations within our membership so that we can have the approach of healthy charitable sector. And you mentioned workforce, with Tennessee having nearly 40,000 nonprofits across the state, and we employ about 200,000 Tennesseans and generate about $31 billion in revenue. And so that does matter. So from your perspective, at the independent sector and the work that you're doing to ensure a healthy charitable sector, why is Tennessee a vital player in your challenge for us to have a delegation at this summit to begin the process, not just for the summit, but the work that you plan to do post the summit?
So, two reasons. I'll start. One is even just the statistics that you laid out mean that your organization has already thought about it. So, as I mentioned, we have an asset-based framework. We want to go where organizations have already started this conversation. So just the fact that the Tennessee Nonprofit Network is aware of those statistics and have thought about it, that helps what independent sector is trying to do when we come there. We're not trying to convince you all that the charitable sector is an important area to sort of think about within the workforce. That's number one. Number two is we're also thinking about a Southeastern strategy. We understand that there are nuances across the country. What happens in California is not necessarily what's needed in Texas. What's needed in Texas is not necessarily what's needed in Ohio. And what happens in Ohio is not necessarily what's needed in Tennessee. And so when we look at Tennessee, we look at its rich history, we look at the understanding that the charitable sector is a workforce and that there is power in it. And so those are the reasons that we wanted to start with Tennessee and have this conversation.
That is wonderful. And because we're in Tennessee, we really do like it. And we know that there's a lot of great power here. And that's one of the things that as Tennessee Nonprofit Network, we want to make sure that we're doing similarly to what independent sector is doing, empowering and supporting our workforce and also the nonprofits that are in our sector. Like April said, we have almost 40,000 here that are small, medium, and large. They're in metro areas, but they're also in our rural communities as well. And we want to make sure that they have access to resources like you all, but also to Tennessee nonprofit resources as well. Well, since we're on Tennessee, I got a couple of questions about Tennessee for you. So,
Sure.
our president and CEO of the Tennessee Nonprofit Network, Dr. Kevin Dean, has deep experience in state level nonprofit infrastructure, leadership, development, policy. The list can go on. How do you see his contribution aligning with all of the delegates from from Tennessee? And I think we have about 25 plus nonprofit leaders that are potentially getting ready to engage. How do you feel that conversation and those other delegates really being a part of the discussion and the conversations during the summit?
Sure. So let me back up again. As I mentioned earlier, we are a membership organization, and so we co-create this. Just so you all know, Dr. Carter was part of the review process of organizations that helped us look at which are the important topics and which proposals should be accepted. So it wasn't me. I didn't sit around and say, I like this one, I like this one, I like that one. And nor did my staff. We asked our members, of which Dr. Carter is one, and she was part of a team that helped not only with the topics, but actually to pick the proposals. That's number one. So that's very important that you all have a stake in the game and you've actually helped us identify. The other part is when I was speaking with our CEO and president, Dr. Akila Watkins, we both identified that we needed a state level strategy, that we wanted to look, because a lot of the workforce conversations are held at the state level. There's some work that sector can do at the federal level, but a lot of the workforce and a lot of the way the data is reported that's readily available is done at the state level. Independent sector don't fly into a city and ignore the network that is already there. So working directly with Tennessee Nonprofit Network just made sense. The other part is one of the speakers at the summit will be Dr. Dean. And so he has a full session. We want to make sure everyone look on the schedule. It's already there that you can log on and attend that session. And so, because of the partnership independent sector has with our member, Tennessee Nonprofit Network, we are providing a, not only did you all help us with the workshops, we have your CEO presenting, but we're also having a state delegation, and we really call it a state delegation challenge. So we've reached out to other states to say, we will offer a discount if you bring your network to us. We will treat them just as if they're independent sector members already, because they're part of your network. Number two, when you all come to Atlanta, and you can look online, we already have a room reserved. It's a room just for Tennessee nonprofits to have a conversation. Independent sector is not creating the agenda. Hopefully I'm invited to at least come in and say hello and meet everyone, but it's really providing a space for our member, Tennessee Nonprofit Network, to have a conversation that is relevant to you all, in particular as you have completed day one and think about day two. Another reason the relationship is important, we'll be working closely with Dr. Dean as we think about a Southeastern strategy. And so once again, we've contacted other state associations in the South. I'm very excited to see everyone is on board. And I will say honestly that Dr. Dean's name came up multiple times when I talked to others of saying, if you're coming to the South, have you talked to Kevin? And I can honestly say, yes, we have. So I'm very excited to say that. So, Andrea, that's one of the other reasons that Tennessee, and in particular your nonprofit network, is a valuable membership, partnership, or relationship with us.
Wonderful. Okay, Dr. Ra, I just want to make have 2 points of clarity here. One, I didn't even see Dr. Dean's submission, so I was not responsible for
We
selecting
made sure you
his. Yes.
didn't.
So yes, I couldn't even access it to see what he submitted. So just be assured that the ones that I selected were not in my network or employed at Tennessee Nonprofit Network. And also the second thing, I'm not quite there yet, Dr. Ross. So for all of the PhD level folks out there, I don't want to take your shine. I am not Dr. Carter, but thank you for speaking that to
I
your
am. I'll speak it
assistants.
into.
Yes. So yeah, so I've got some work to finish. But with that, one of the things that I found have been most impactful for my career, especially over the last 2 years, you talked about, just having that activated network. One of my I've had many mentors over the years, including Andrea Hill. We're speaking doctor over here, her as well. But Dorian Spears some years ago told me that you can know the work and able to do the work, but you have to have that activated network in order to move the work forward. And I never forgot that. And since that moment, I've been able to activate my network to advance my career. And so with that, you already kind of laid out the importance of professional development being co-created by the network, the independent sector members, but also it creates this thread of activated network that will advance our missions here in Tennessee and Georgia, Alabama, Kentucky, all of our southern states. So kind of talk about this being a launch pad, the summit being a launch pad, not just for Tennessee Nonprofit Network, but all of the members that are coming together at this moment to start a movement, to start mission-driven work at the summit, and why that's so important to be plugged into this activated network.
Sure, Dr. Carter. I mean, April. How I come to. So as I tell everyone, a couple of things. One, we call this roadmap to Atlanta and beyond. There is no way we can do all of this work trying to cram everything that's needed in a day and a half. It's not possible. We're not even trying to do that. So just consider the summit as the first of the reintroduction to how we're thinking about the healthy charitable sector. Part of the last day and throughout the summit, you will all be able to respond to a QR codes, and part of it is the vision. Where's the charitable sector going in 30 years? That's not for my team to sit in DC and think about. That is for the sector. So as you walk throughout the conference, there are QR codes, and we're just going to ask you different prompting questions, something you just walk by. Not only what is the vision, but where do you sit and what are you going to play it? So we want to make sure you're not just giving my team a full to-do list. Is where's your organization in that? Right after the summit, independent sector will start meeting with networks and our members to talk about two parts. One, what is happening in your state where independent sector can help. And two, what have you learned that you want to share with other state associations so that we can start sharing that information. And so just think of the summit as I said, as the roadmap to Atlanta and beyond. And we already have meetings scheduled in November to start thinking about what that conversation looked like. We don't have an agenda intentionally because we haven't had a conversation yet with you all of what is needed. So we're not going to walk in with this nice PowerPoint and presentation to say, here are the 5 things that independent sector is going to do for Tennessee. Our role is to listen and to hear what is happening in Tennessee. What do you identify as needs? And for you all to tell us where do you believe independent sector can help support it. And we hope to start those conversations, well, extend those conversations immediately after the summit.
Well, Dr. Rod, this has been a wonderful conversation, but I have one more question for you. Um, if there's anything that you want to share with just all the folks that are going to who want to register and still have a little bit of time to register for the upcoming conference, what would you like to say about the summit? And just like your parting words to really encourage them around what they'll see, what they'll hear, and what they'll be a part of with this independent sector conference or summit.
Sure. The way we're thinking about this summit, and I mentioned it earlier, this is not a death by PowerPoint type conference. This is an opportunity for you to come, to share, to be engaged. We've ensured that with all of the presenters, that's how their information is going to be presented. We've looked at across the spectrum of what we've heard that nonprofits and philanthropy needs. So this is thinking about the charitable sector as a whole, because that's how we work. You don't sit in your office and think about how does a nonprofit do this? How does philanthropy do this? You think about what does the community need? And that's how we've designed all of the workshops. Even when we think about the main stages, you're going to notice that we have a powerful main stage that is held by all of the leaders of the infrastructure organizations. We have the president and CEOs of United Philanthropy Forum, of Council on Foundations, and National Council of Nonprofits, sitting with our CEO and president, Dr. Keela Watkins. And also that will be moderated by the McKnight Foundation. And so just the way we're thinking about how we do all of this collectively. Also, as I mentioned earlier, we have these networking opportunities. We try not to over program it because we also want you to be able to connect as humans and to walk away with some relationships that when you get back to your office, you know you have someone to call, someone to reach out to, someone to email because you've made some new connects that can help you move your missions forward. So that's the look and feel that we're going for at this summit, to make sure that you see yourselves in it, to make sure that nonprofits and philanthropy see that this is about the collective power. And we intentionally didn't separate this is for a nonprofit, this is philanthropy. It's how do we build that collective power for both working together.
Dr. Roy, you just threw out some very powerful names that we are so excited to even be in the room with. But that is only the tip of the iceberg of who will be in the room, who will be presenting at the conference. We know that we will have some of our state associations there. We will have representatives from Candid, Brevity, and WIT, First Women's Bank. It's just the list goes on for thought partners in this work, folks we can connect with, learn from, maybe pour into, because we're all there to learn and to connect. Even our presenters that will be at the summit are always saying, I am here to learn from you all. I'm just not at the front of the room, as you said, trying to present my ideas upon you, but we are co-creating this work. So any final thoughts or before we close out?
Sure, just 2 pieces. One, be on the lookout. We've created a LinkedIn network where people can start connecting now. Because once again, in our mind, we're not thinking this as a 2-day event. That those 2 days are just 2 days we will all be in the same space. We've already started the work connecting. We've already started a LinkedIn group, so look out for that. And that way we can continue. So once you get to the summit, you've already identified individuals that you're looking for. The second part is think about our name. We were created as independent sector for a reason. And we're not a political driven organization, but there was a need nearly 50 years ago that you have the public sector and you have the private sector, and there's a space where individuals need additional assistance. And that's why our organization was created out of departments out of the government, and we were called independent sector for a reason. And so that's why we have our name. That's how we think about this. And as we think about the next 30 years in the future, we need to think about how, as an independent sector, we are collectively working together to move forward. And if I may, I just want to, I'll be remiss if I don't mention a couple of the pre-sessions. If I
Yes.
could do that really quick.
Oh, absolutely.
Now it's all coming back to me. So we have a pre-session that starts on Monday. The main conference starts Monday afternoon, but Monday during the day, we have a few sessions I wanted to talk about. Because we are in Atlanta, we're hosting two site visits. One to a community that was developed by formerly enslaved Africans in Atlanta, and they named it Pittsburgh Yards because it reminded them of Pittsburgh. And so that community is thriving, and it's now managed by one of our member partners, Annie Casey Foundation. And we will then move to one of our other members, Sheltering Arms, to think about education and educational policy in the state. We will also venture off to another side of Atlanta that is heavily supported by a migrant and immigrant population. And so its Buford Highway is one of the most dangerous highways in the world because it's still a highway, but it's used as a main street. And so you have individuals trying to cross this highway just to get to work, just to shop. And we're going to think about a day in the life of an immigrant. Those are pre-sessions. We also have sessions for chief executive officers of nonprofits and philanthropy. You have to sign up for that one, and we're working on a list because of capacity. We will have pre-sessions around public policy. We also have pre-sessions if you're a CFO and a COO in a nonprofit or philanthropy. Don't just think of this as a program kind of conference. It's also for CFOs and COOs. And this year, I'm very excited to announce we have our inaugural Student Leadership Academy. So if you know, when we say student, we're talking about college level, undergrad, master's certificates. If you or you know someone who is pursuing a degree or a certificate or a credential in nonprofit management, leadership, philanthropy, finance, we have a Student Leadership Academy that will be also held on that Monday. So I just wanted to make sure we looked within nonprofits and philanthropy and thought about the work in the workforce and actually what you all could use in your day-to-day roles. And so we have sessions for everyone who's working in your nonprofit or philanthropic organization where you can come to the conference, meet other colleagues, and get information that is germane to your role. So I just wanted to make sure I added that other part in.
Okay, we definitely could have started that. So I want to do like a clip and to introduce the interview and then and close with that as well. That is absolutely amazing. And it's so many different touch points in that for different roles within the organization. Uh, but also, and thank you so much for your work with this summit. I know behind the scenes, it can get very crazy behind the scenes, but you have pushed forward. So thank you. But I also want to just give a shout out, if you will, to your president and CEO, Dr. Akila Wax. You mentioned her earlier, but just kind of talk about her support for your ideas, for your work, for your intentionality, and bringing the sector together to co-create this.
Sure. If you haven't had a chance to meet Dr. Watkins, please stop her at the conference. She's like, we love talking to people. She's a relationship type person. I won't try to go over her bio, but she started out her work in community programming and community development. She moved on to Atlanta, where she worked in philanthropy, and then she moved on community development, rising to the CEO of a large nonprofit, and now she's an independent sector. When she first talked to me last year about this role, two things that she wanted to make sure we highlighted. One, that we work with our members and nonprofits and philanthropy to think collectively of how we move this work together, and also to make sure that we recognize that a lot of the work has already been done. So that was already laid out when I started. And so just make sure you see her at the conference, tap on the shoulder, you say hello. We, as I said, once again, have a session for CEOs in particular, but if you're not a CEO, we still have other opportunities for you to meet Dr. Watkins. You would love having a conversation with her. She's like I am, we travel nonstop, so don't be surprised if you see us in Tennessee soon.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ra. And for everyone watching, there is still time to register. You can go to summit.independentsector.org for all of the information on the speakers, the timeline, pricing. But if you are in Tennessee and you are a member of Tennessee Nonprofit Network, I've got a surprise for you all. You all can register at the member rate under Tennessee Nonprofit Network, but we only have 25 slots for our members. So please, please, please reach out to me or reach out to Andrea Hill, and we will get you all squared away. We'll have information linked down below, so you don't have to scramble. You can just go ahead and click and get all the information you need, but you need to be in the room. We try to make sure our entire staff that were available will be in the room, and we are working closely with other partners because we know the value of being in the activated network, being able to co-create and bring our expertise and learn from others, and just simply being in the room with you all. So summit.independentsector.org for all of the information. We'll make sure that we link Dr. Rashid Mosley's information as well. If you are on LinkedIn, he's happy to connect. Please send that invite just to connect. Or if you have additional questions, please feel free to reach out. But Tennessee, we are going to represent all of the other states. You are welcome to come and join us in this partnership. But we are so excited. Dr. Rob, thank you so much again for putting all of this together, your hard work. I know a vacation is on the horizon as soon as November hits. After this, just send us some pictures wherever you are. You don't have to disclose the location. Just send us pictures of you on the beach hiking. Like, what is your pastime when you're on vacation?
In particular, if I travel out of the country,
Mhm.
I particularly like to go into the local communities. If they have buses, subways, I try to experience life as a local. I've had a couple of issues because I don't speak a lot of different languages. And so you have to be mindful now moving forward. But I really like to live in the community and be with the community wherever I travel, whether it's domestic or international. So whatever the locals do, that's where you'll find me.
That is fan. Oh, so those pictures are going to be nice.
Oh yeah, they're real
That,
pictures, eating in real restaurants, no chain restaurants. But yeah,
yes.
going to real grocery stores on the community bus. That's me.
Okay, so it's in your blood.
Yeah,
Community
that's
is
right.
in your blood. So thank you so much again. We will close this out again. All of the information will be below. We hope to see you in Atlanta, October 27th through the 29th with Tennessee Nonprofit Network and Independent Sector. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you next time.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Tennessee.